So, I want to talk to you about electric aircraft today, and I thought a very good example would be to begin with a very simple question that you want to fly to Batam. Now, everyone knows where Batam is. It's a very close city to Singapore, and what would the options look like if we were wanting to fly to Batam? So Batam is about 25 kilometres directly from the harbour to the city centre. And what are the options for trying to achieve this? Now, if I wanted to fly, I could take a Lion Air or one of the other aircraft, and to go that simple 25 kilometres, I would take almost one day and 6 to 8 hours and about $700 to $800 worth of cost. My other option, of course, is to use the boat service and go from the harbour to Batam, which is about an hour a trip from the harbour to Batam. That averages out to be about 25 kilometres per hour to achieve such a small distance and relative proximity to Singapore. And that type of speed is probably something that we've become used to here in Singapore, at least. What if we could depart at the harbour and fly with no security, no queues, on demand, and we had something that was also good for the environment? I think that we'd all agree that that is something that we'd love to have. So if I could leave work and take a grab, go from downtown to harbour, hop on a plane and fly that distance to Batam, I would be there in 36 minutes. It would eliminate a lot of time and commuting, and that type of opening up of different cities and ports close by to where we live is a different way in which we need to think about the connectivity of communities, economies, and the way and the options that we have going forward into the future. So if this model could be replicated all over the world, what would it mean to you and where you live today? The price of travel, and most importantly, your options would be opened up extraordinarily. But all of this comes at a cost. The planes that we fly today are destroying our environment, and every day there's 100,000 flights that fly around the world that contribute 3% of the global emissions, and that's 800 million tonnes of CO2 every day that is being put into the atmosphere. But also airlines are struggling. We're talking about $1 to $2 per seat of profit on an average leg of 500 to 1,000 nautical miles. These struggle to be profitable due to the high operating costs, and those that fly often survive only because of the hundreds of millions of dollars of subsidies that are being provided to them by governments or other nations that seek to prop up their own internal and domestic and international infrastructure. At Ampere, we're solving these problems today by electrifying aviation. A third revolution has begun in aviation. The first was controlled powered flight in the 1920s, followed by the jet engine that we all know today that takes us from city to city. And the third revolution is the ending of the jet age and the beginning of the electric propulsion. And we're now entering that third stage. Fuel, and this is the electric aviation that we're going to. So the benefits are massive, and let's just talk about them for a moment. With electric aircraft, you can save up to 70 to 90% of fuel costs. Fuel and labour are the largest costs for any airline operation today. And 25 to 50% of maintenance cost savings. For an electric engine, there is essentially one moving part. For a turbine engine that's in a turboprop aircraft that you know today, on a small jet engine, the maintenance costs for them are extraordinary. Every 2 to 3 years, every part needs to be taken apart, it needs to be disassembled, it needs to be inspected, and then all put back together. With electric engines, all of that cost is removed immediately, and now you only have one moving part in the whole propulsion system. We have ultra-quiet takeoffs and landings. Now we're changing the way in which we are able to propel our aircraft. We're able to then reduce the noise and open up electric aviation into the suburban areas where once it and is today not allowed. Zero direct emissions. And this is really important because not only is it helping the environment, but we have some significant governments that are around the world that are legislating and putting in place regulation to ensure this change happens. In Norway, they've committed to having all electric flights by 2040 for all domestic flights within that country. In Los Angeles, where Ampere is based, they've made a commitment to have zero emissions for their transport system by 2050 and are heavily investing in that today and scaling it up from 25% in the next 5 years to 30 and 40% over the next 20 or 30 years. All of this has a meaningful impact. We have new flights. Fueled flights are limited in frequency and offer poor economic returns for their owners. Improved profitability on electric or existing routes will add thousands of new flights, and existing routes will be flown more often. We have more destinations. Routes that were not financially viable before can be put into operation, providing more destination options to everyone. Quieter, cleaner planes. Today there are 5,000 regional airports in the United States where short-haul flights can open up new routes that are too expensive to do today. And we'll see a more accessible world because of this. And more people will be flying. More people are able to fly from small towns close to where they live instead of driving long distances to get to their airports. These new vehicles will incorporate the most advanced technology from electric vehicles, aviation and autonomy. And this allows then enduring long hours on the road to their destinations or to an airport to be eliminated completely. So our mission is to be a trusted, practical, compelling electric aircraft company that can deliver meaningful impact today. And our vision is very simple. It is for flights that are more accessible to more people from more airports with electric aircraft that are safe, clean, quiet and less costly. And our flight plan and really the essential of our business model is a pragmatic one, and let me take you through that now. We believe that in a future with exciting new planes like our electric Tailwind, which is a clean sheet electric aircraft design, these new vehicles incorporate the most advanced technology from electric vehicles, aviation, materials, electric motors and autonomy. But while our heads are in the clouds, our feet are firmly on the ground. For our first product, we are transforming an existing passenger plane to an electric aircraft. This twin-engine plane has one combustion engine and one electric, creating redundancy and improved levels of safety. This is a Cessna 337. When it flies this year, in the coming weeks, it'll be the first of its kind, and while others have focused on solutions that won't be available for a decade or more, Ampere's flight plan is lean, agile, and scalable. So, our first commercially relevant aircraft using electric propulsion is very near, and this is an example of that electric aircraft that we are developing now. And this will be our first product that we'll be delivering to our customers in the coming year. While we're on contract on our fourth airframe for Mukulele Airlines, I'd like to tell you a little bit about that. What we've done with Mukulele Airlines, we have a partnership, a contractual relationship in which we will be replacing some of their routes between the different cities of Hawaii with their aircraft. Here you can see a Cessna 208, and replacing it with an electric aircraft, electric engine, and flying them on the routes between the two cities in Hawaii. This is a very exciting time for the company. It is a commercial validation as an airline on board, and from this we see that the company will grow. So where we see this is that if this business model and the expansion of electric aircraft could be repeated around the world, there are thousands upon thousands of flights short in the mid-range that can be replaced in the coming years and opening up new connections for everyone. So the bottom line is that Ampere is connecting people and communities around the globe by building electric planes that are cleaner, quieter, and significantly less costly to operate. And the bottom line is that Ampere is not only delivering on the promise of electric aircraft today, we are leading the charge. And with that, thank you.
Are there any legislative hurdles in operating electric aircraft as opposed to commercial aircraft?
Was the question around regulation and certification?
Yes.
Yep, okay. So yeah, there's a couple of points on that. So with a retrofit of an aircraft, we can apply for what's called an STC with the FAA and in the different areas in the jurisdictions around the world. An STC allows you to make a modification to an aircraft with an approved FCC engineering firm. And we would then own the STC, which effectively is an IP piece for the company, which then could be either sold, licensed to others to be able to do the same thing on existing airframes that are the same. For a complete new aircraft, like the Tailwind that I showed you, that would be a certification of a completely new aircraft from the ground up. So there's a couple of options that enable the business model to happen. Does that answer your question? Yep. Thank you.
Hi. So I was wondering that you mostly emphasized about the short haul flights, and with the developments in the battery technology, do you think the long haul flights are more likely, or the growth mostly will be coming from a lot of different routes from the short haul flights, or creating new routes instead of existing routes?
Yes, so to give you an example, 30% of flights in the United States today are less than 500 nautical miles. So that mid-haul market is a very attractive one. It's one that a lot of operators are using aircraft that is not sized properly for that particular route. And if you look at the US again, there's something like 15,000 airports in the country, and about 300 carry 90% of the traffic. So what we do see is that there is a big opportunity between that, but there's also seaplanes as well. So if you think about the example that I gave at the beginning, there you effectively got a runway that without having to lay a tarmac, and using electric flight to start opening up connections between different communities. So I think that once it establishes itself, that we'll see more flights being taken to the air.